Welcome back. I'm sure through this week, the week 2 modules have been pretty much interesting. In this particular week, you have studied the international landscape of intellectual property primarily through the TRIPS agreement. I'm sure you have learned the most important aspects that lays the edifice for international IP, such as national treatment and most favored nations treatment, and you have also studied various other principles involved in the study of international IP primarily through the TRIPS agreement, the Berne Convention, and other related agreements. In the next module, you had studied about intellectual property and its interface with fundamental freedoms. I'm sure you in this module you have gone through how creativity and access are important for free speech, and I'm sure you have seen how copyright relates to such and also sometimes creates impediments and also fuels free speech. So these dichotomies cannot be understood in binary, and I'm sure you have understood the nuances. In the third module during the week, you studied the relationship between intellectual property and access to medicines primarily through the perspective of the TRIPS agreement, and I'm sure you have looked into the various dynamics of how patentable subject matter, the rights granted, limitations and exceptions, and compulsory license and other public interest measures are embedded in the TRIPS agreement for providing access to medicines. In the fourth module during the week, you studied the relationship between intellectual property and competition law. I'm sure you have looked into how intellectual property, although it may seem at quite opposite to meet the ends of competition law, actually are complementary. However, you have looked into the nuances, especially how in India section 3(5) creates reasonable amount of restrictions and also allows you certain advantages with reference to licensing, and yet if you fall outside the scope of these reasonable requirements, you could violate competition law. Similarly, sections such as section 4 on abuse of dominance and issues relating to IP in mergers and acquisitions have been studied. So I am very hopeful that in the next modules from week 3 onwards, you are going to get into the deeper aspects of intellectual property law, primarily each of those in relation to patents, copyrights, trademarks, industrial designs, plant varieties, and other sui generis systems. Look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you very much.